Welcome to Nugget 273 with Steve and Dana Groman. In Nugget 272, we took you to the Bristlecone Pines that are in Cedar Breaks National Monument and in the nearby Dixie National Forest. This week, we're taking you to the Great Basin in Nevada. Great Basin National Park is in Nevada on the border of Utah. From the 13,063-foot summit of Wheeler Peak to the sage-covered foothills, Great Basin National Park is a place to sample the stunning diversity of the larger Great Basin region. Come and partake of the solitude of the wilderness. Walk among ancient bristlecone pines. Bask in the darkest of night skies and explore mysterious subterranean passages. There's a whole lot more than just desert here. We went there many years ago because we wanted to see the ancient bristlecones and the southernmost glacier in Nevada. It was late September when we went and the snow was already on the ground. Fortunately for us, the road was still open. Last October, Steve and I were heading that way to go back to revisit the Great Basin and explore the Layman Caves and some of the other things that we were not able to do there when we had gone before, but because of snow and bad weather, we didn't get to go. So this is on our bucket list to get back over to this extraordinary park. One of the things it's known for is its incredible dark skies, and there was going to be quite a show in the sky at that time, but again, the weather did not cooperate, the skies weren't clear, and neither was the pass. But we do want to introduce you to this park in Nugget 274. We'll take you to the Bristlecone Pine Trail and tell you all about Prometheus. Most people go to this park to either hike all the way to Wheeler Peak or to go to the Layman Caves. This year they're having the centennial celebration at Layman Caves. You can visit the park in all 4 seasons. Just realize that if you're not visiting in the summer or the spring, your trip may be limited or you may have to be creative. The ancient Fremont Indians left art on the rock walls of Upper Pictograph Cave, telling indecipherable tales. Miners in the late 1800s left visible marks behind in the ways of structures, pulleys, and mining shafts at the Johnson Lake mine. And that is one of the most fabulous things to see out west are the things that have been left by the old miners. And Absalom Layman, an early settler in the Snake Valley, planted an orchard that remains today, built aqueducts still discernible in places, and opened beautiful Layman Caves to the rest of the world. As we drove in, you could see bad weather was looming on the mountain, and we were concerned that we would not get to do what we had planned to do, and that was to see the ancient bristlecone pines. We parked at the lower Layman Creek campground and settled in for the night. The next morning we got up and were able to drive on the well-maintained Wheeler Peak Scenic Road, which climbs to over 10,000 feet in elevation. The wilderness areas are easily accessible to people willing to take a short hike, though many visitors go no farther than the park centerpiece, the Layman Caves. Geological forces have been sculpting Layman Caves since Noah's flood, and of course most of the park propaganda, I'll call it, say for 70 million years, but we know that that is not true. Absalom Layman stumbled upon the small entrance to the caves, and they were declared a national monument in 1922, and that's why this is their centennial year. And they have done very little to improve the cave. They want to keep it just like it is. There are different guided tours and a candlelight tour, and I recommend that if you have never taken a candlelight tour or a lantern tour through a cave, you do just that. Founded in 1986, Great Basin National Park is a late arrival to the national park system. As I mentioned, Absalom Layman discovered the limestone caves near Wheeler Peak, west of Baker, in 1881, and he gave tours for 6 years. Nearby, Layman's 19th century apricot trees continue to produce fruit, and we have actually picked fruit at several national park sites, the one in Stehekin that we talked about recently in one of the nuggets about picking fruit, and in Capitol Reef National Park in the center of Utah. Located in a remote section of the park, the 6-story high Lexington Arch is one of the largest limestone arches in the western United States, and we weren't able to do that either, and that is definitely on the bucket list. The highlight of the park for us was the 4.6-mile hike to the world's oldest trees. The dead-looking bristlecone pines are very much alive. The bristlecone groves are found just below tree line. We will be talking more about that in the next nugget. This is one of my go-to books, and my book's getting a little tattered. It's a guide to the national parks, and specifically the national parks, and Great Basin is a national park. And that is because it has caves, the Arch, my mining history, other human history, Wheeler Peak, the Ancient Bristlecone Pines, and the Glacier, which qualifies it as a stunning national park. But because of its remote location on the loneliest road, US Highway 50, it's not as visited as it should, but that actually makes it one of the better parks to visit. Unfortunately, the book is from an evolutionary viewpoint, and I'll read on and we'll just see how this makes sense or how Noah's flood makes more sense. An ice age landscape of glacier-carved peaks rise more than a mile from the desert floor. We can say Noah's flood's landscape of glacier-carved peaks rise from the desert floor. The park takes its name from the vast region that extends east from California's Sierra Nevada to Utah's Wasatch Range and from southern Oregon to southern Nevada, encompassing most of Nevada and western Utah. Called Great Basin by explorer John C. Fremont in the mid-1800s, the region actually comprises not one, but at least 90 basins or valleys, and its rivers all flow inland, not to any ocean, and that's quite unique. The park road winds up Wheeler Peak, the second highest mountain in the state of Nevada. When the road ends at 10,000 feet, trails lead to the 13,063-foot summit and to the region's only glacier, near a stand of bristlecone pines. Great Basin is a young park compared to the likes of Yellowstone or Yosemite, yet within its confines are some of the world's oldest trees. And again, we'll be talking about that in the next nugget. Interesting, Layman Caves is at an altitude of 6,800 feet. We have been in caves before that were a mile high, and they actually had written in one of them 5,280 feet, and we'll take you there sometime. It says that these caves were formed when higher water tables during the Ice Age made pockets in the limestone. Well, that's probably true. Water pockets were probably made in the limestone, but it was during and after Noah's flood. The park is open year-round, but the upper 8 miles of Wheeler Peak Scenic Drive is closed from November to May or during heavy snows, and that's why we were not able to go there, and that cuts off a lot of things that are wonderful to do there, like most of the trails. The 3-mile Bristlecone Glacier Trail leaves at Teresa Lake and takes you to Wheeler Cirque, a glacier-hollowed valley enclosed by sheer cliffs. At the far end lies the Glacier, the Great Basin's only permanent one and one of the southernmost in the country. The park site has a recommendation depending on how long you have to visit. If you only have one day, it has certain ideas, and one I missed to venture up the Bristlecone Pine Trail. And again, this is based on weather permitting, and you'll see the oldest living organisms in the world. Continue further up the trail to see Nevada's only glacier at the base of Wheeler Peak. And we've taken you to the glacier in this nugget. In our next nugget, we will be taking you to the Bristlecone Pine Trail. It is a gorgeous trail to the glacier, as you can see, and this sign reads, "As it moves, the glacier gouges a cirque or bowl in the face of the mountain. When the river of ice reaches the point where more ice melts than arrives, the glacier deposits its accumulated burden of rock and debris in a terminal moraine." And as we were there, I was wondering that if the ice in the very bottom of this glacier was from Noah's flood. I realize that all of the water that we have on Earth is from Noah's flood, but I mean, was it laid out at the time of the flood when the ice was coming in? Was some of that buried at the very bottom of this glacier? Has it been there since Noah's flood? Just a thought. The rock glacier begins at the toe of the ice portion of the glacier. There, large broken chunks of rock accumulate. Water occupies the space between the rocks. When the water freezes, it expands. When it thaws, it contracts. The change of seasons and the steady pressure of gravity cause the rock glacier to move slowly downward. Due to the danger of rockfall, hikers should remain on the trail. And we did. In Nugget 274, we will take you from the trailhead of the Bristlecone Alpine Lakes Trailhead to the Bristlecone Pines and tell you about Prometheus. If you appreciate our content, tell others and repost on your social platforms. You can contact us at 603-616-8907. If you appreciate these videos and you would like to partner with us on a monthly or one-time basis, we would be most appreciative. The links are in the description below. Thank you.